The ashes still fell like gray snow when the first human ship broke through the clouds above Pandora. Commander Jake Reyes stood at the cockpit window and stared at what remained of Hell's Gate. The massive RDA complex that had once dominated the landscape was now nothing but twisted metal and scorched earth. The firefall had been worse than anyone predicted. The volcanic chain reaction that the scientists had warned about for decades had finally happened, and it had changed everything. Commander, readings show atmospheric toxicity has increased by 40%. Lieutenant Amara Okonkwo reported from her station. The filtration systems we brought might not be enough. Jake nodded slowly. He had seen the satellite images before they left Earth. Pandora was dying. The beautiful moon that humanity had once tried to exploit for its unobtainium was now choking on volcanic ash and toxic gases. The great forests that the Na'vi had protected so fiercely were burning or already dead in vast stretches of the land. What about the Na'vi settlements? Jake asked. Scattered, destroyed mostly. We're picking up small groups of survivors in the northern territories, but the southern clans... Amara paused and shook her head. They're gone, sir. The ship descended through the poison clouds. Jake remembered the old stories about how humanity had come here before with greed in their hearts. They had wanted the minerals beneath the ground. They had destroyed without thinking. The Na'vi had fought back and won, driving the humans away. But that was before the firefall. Now the Na'vi had nothing. Their world was breaking apart, and their connection to Awa was weakening as the great trees fell one by one. They had sent a message through the few remaining communication links. They had asked for help. After everything that had happened, they had asked the humans to return. Jake still remembered the debate back on Earth. Many people said they should let Pandora burn. The Na'vi had rejected humanity once. Why should humans help them now? But others argued differently. They said this was a chance to prove that humanity could be better. They could be builders instead of destroyers. The ship landed on a patch of clear ground near what used to be a great waterfall. The water was brown now, mixed with ash and debris. A small group of Na'vi waited at the edge of the clearing. They were thin and tired-looking. Their skin had lost its healthy blue glow. Jake sealed his exopack and stepped outside with his team. The air was thick and heavy even through the filter. He walked toward the Na'vi with his hands open and visible. I am called Jake Reyes, he said in the Na'vi language he had studied during the long journey. We have come to help. The tallest Na'vi stepped forward. She was an older female with scars across her face and arms. I am Natariate, daughter of the old clans. We have called you because we are dying. Our mother is dying. She gestured at the burning horizon. Can you truly help us? Jake looked at his team. They were engineers, scientists, doctors, and builders. They had brought prefabricated shelters, water purification systems, seed banks, and medical supplies. They had brought everything they could carry. We can try, Jake said honestly. We will work together. We will learn from you, and you will learn from us. Natariate studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. The work began the next morning. The first challenge was shelter. The Na'vi had always lived in harmony with the forest, building their homes in the great trees or in caves shaped by natural processes. But the trees were dying, and the caves were filling with toxic gases from the volcanic vents. Dr. Wei Lin, the mission's lead architect, studied the problem for 3 days. She talked with the Na'vi elders about their traditions. She learned how they built their structures to breathe with the wind and collect rainwater. Then she designed something new. The shelters were made from lightweight materials brought from Earth, but they were shaped like the great seed pods that the Na'vi considered sacred. They could be anchored to any surface and would filter the toxic air while still allowing natural light inside. Most importantly, they could be built quickly with simple tools. The Na'vi were suspicious at first. They watched the humans work with careful eyes. But when young Na'vi children ran inside the first completed shelter and laughed at the clean air, things changed. The Na'vi began to help. "You think different from the old humans," Netiriate said to Jake one evening as they watched the construction teams work. "They came to take. You come to give. We learn from our mistakes," Jake said. "Not all of us, not always, but enough of us to be here now." The water was the next problem. The rivers were poisoned and the rain was acidic. The Na'vi were getting sick from drinking contaminated water. Their healers had no medicine for this kind of sickness. Engineer Marcus Washington set up the first purification station by the brown waterfall. The machine was ugly and loud, nothing like the natural beauty the Na'vi were used to. But it produced clean water. Within a week, there were 10 stations running along the river network. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young Na'vi named Suti worked closely with the human scientists. He was curious about their machines, always asking questions and watching their work. One day, he brought Dr. Lin a sample of a plant that grew near the volcanic vents. "This plant drinks the poison from the water," he explained. "It has always grown here, but we never paid attention to it." Dr. Lin analyzed the plant and discovered that it could filter heavy metals and neutralize acidic compounds. It was a natural purification system that had evolved over millions of years. The humans immediately began cultivating the plant on a large scale, combining it with their technology to create a hybrid system that was more effective than either approach alone. This became the pattern of their work. The humans brought their machines and their knowledge. The Na'vi brought their understanding of the land and its secrets. Together, they created solutions that neither could have imagined alone. The months passed, and the settlement grew. The Na'vi began calling it New Breath because of the clean air that flowed through its shelters. More human ships arrived with more supplies and more volunteers. More Na'vi refugees found their way to the settlement from the dying territories. But not everyone was happy with this arrangement. A group of Na'vi led by a warrior named Akwi refused to accept human help. They believed that working with humans would corrupt the Na'vi spirit. They called Netiriate a traitor and demanded that she send the humans away. "They are the children of those who destroyed our world before," Akwi argued in a gathering of all the survivors. "How can we trust them now?" Netiriate stood to answer, but Jake spoke first. "You are right to be angry," he said. "What our ancestors did here was wrong. We cannot undo that wrong. We can only try to do better now. If you want us to leave, we will leave. But we will leave behind everything we have built and everything we have taught. The choice is yours." The gathering was silent. Then a young Na'vi mother stood up. She was holding a baby in her arms. "My daughter was born in New Breath," she said. "She breathes clean air because of these humans. She drinks clean water because of these humans. I do not care what our ancestors thought. I care about my daughter's future." One by one, others stood and shared similar stories. The vote was overwhelming. The humans would stay. Akwi left with his followers that night. They disappeared into the toxic wilderness, and no one knew what became of them. But their departure marked a turning point. Those who remained were fully committed to the joint effort. The real test came when the second wave of volcanic eruptions hit. The ground shook for 3 days straight. New vents opened in the earth, spewing more ash and poison into the air. The sky turned completely black, and the temperature dropped 20 degrees. The purification systems failed under the strain. The water plants died. The shelters began to crack. Jake watched as everything they had built started to fall apart. He felt despair creeping into his heart. Maybe this was hopeless after all. Maybe Pandora was truly dying, and nothing could save it. But then he saw the Na'vi working alongside the humans to repair the shelters. He saw Dr. Lin and Suti rushing to transplant the surviving water plants to protected greenhouse domes. He saw Marcus Washington rigging emergency power to the purification systems using parts scavenged from damaged equipment. Nobody was giving up. Jake grabbed a toolkit and joined the repair crews. For 72 hours straight, humans and Navi worked side by side without rest. They shored up the shelters with reinforced supports. They dug new channels to divert the poisoned water away from the settlement. They built emergency air filtration towers using every available material. When the eruptions finally stopped, New Breath was still standing. It was damaged and covered in ash, but it had survived. "We did it," Amara said, collapsing next to Jake in exhaustion. "We did it together," Neytiri corrected her. The Navi leader was equally tired, but there was something new in her eyes. It was hope. The recovery took months, but each setback made the settlement stronger. The humans learned to build with local materials that could withstand Pandora's harsh new conditions. The Navi learned to adapt their traditional practices to the changed environment. Together, they developed new techniques that became the foundation of a whole new way of life. The forests would not grow back as they once were. The great trees were gone forever, but new growth began to appear in the ashes. Strange plants that thrived on volcanic soil. Hybrid species that combined earth seeds with Pandoran genetics. The land was not recovering to what it was before. It was becoming something new. 5 years after the first human ship landed, New Breath had grown from a desperate refugee camp into a thriving city of 10,000 souls. Navi and humans lived side by side, working and learning together. The toxic air outside was still deadly, but the purification zones had expanded to cover hundreds of square kilometers. Commander Jake Reyes, now called Torek Makto by the Navi children who had never known any other way of life, stood on the observation platform of the central tower. Below him, he could see the markets where Navi traded with human merchants. He could see the schools where children of both species learned each other's languages and histories. He could see the engineering yards where mixed teams worked on new machines and new plans. Neytiri climbed up to join him. She was older now, with gray streaks in her hair, but she still carried herself like a warrior. "When I called for your help," she said, "I expected you to come as masters. I expected you to save us like we were helpless creatures. I was prepared to hate you for it even while accepting your aid. And now?" Jake asked. "Now I see that you came as partners. You did not save us. You helped us save ourselves. That is a gift I never expected from humans." Jake smiled. "We're still learning too. Every day, we learn something new from you." A ship broke through the clouds above them. It was carrying more supplies, more volunteers, more hope. In the distance, Jake could see the green shimmer of the expansion zones where the land was slowly coming back to life. Pandora would never be what it was before the Firefall, but it would be something. A world built by two peoples who had once been enemies. A monument to what could be accomplished when ingenuity met determination. From the ashes of destruction, they had built not just survival, but glory. And it was only the beginning.